And then we get into level 4 where innovators, where it can aid in innovation. And I think it's missing here that can also invent on its own without any kind of human prompting interaction, which is pretty crazy.
The mind-boggling point for me here is once you do achieve that stable or sustainable reasoning level, you essentially just tell the AI to improve itself.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is July 23rd, 2024, and you're listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. And today we're talking about how Sam Altman's got a new definition for AGI. And not just Sam, it's Sam and all of OpenAI. Today we've got Jyunmi, we've got Karl, and I'm Brian. And we'll see if anybody else runs in the door before we're all said and done. But yeah, like I said at the top, we're here to talk about the 5 levels of AGI that sort of came out through Bloomberg, I believe, talking about something that OpenAI was doing in order to attract the investors as well as other things. But as I've said in prep for this show, it's also interesting because it wasn't all that long ago that at least Sam Altman. Now, Sam Altman and OpenAI are not one and the same, so he's more than welcome to have a personal opinion on this, of course, and there might be an official stance from the company. Just want to throw that out there. But Sam Altman, being the CEO of the company and sort of the face of it, said not too long ago that he had given up on giving some definitions of AGI because it was so murky, right? It could be this or it could be that, and he ultimately said, I think he gave the point of, it's not going to be this snap of a finger, right? That's not what AGI is. It's going to be sort of slow and evolving in some areas much faster than others. Well, here we are today, or at least last week, and then he came out with this, the Bloomberg article, and a news cycle talking about these 5 levels. So that's what we're here to talk about. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Karl, who, Karl, you said you've actually been presenting on this a little bit. So I think you're the perfect person to kind of get us started in this conversation. And I'm going to go on mute while you do that.
First of all, I guess I want to show exactly what we mean here for those who haven't seen it before. So there was a Bloomberg article. This is just a screen capture. I don't think it was behind a paywall. So they ranked, not ranked, but there's levels to where the AI is. And when I'm presenting to businesses, it really coalesces what we're talking about, where, we show, hey, this is where AI is. This is where it's going to be and going to go. Because it's tough to have that conversation and say, hey, when businesses ask, hey, where do you think AI is going to be in 3 to 5 years? Because my business, is it going to exist? Are my employees going to be okay? And it's hard to say anything because for pretty much everyone, they don't know. But this helps qualify it a little bit. So I actually took this from someone on X, and I screen captured this. So the 5 levels that they were looking at is, so the first level is where we are all now. We have chatbots that can we use conversation. We use it to answer questions, ask about, create content, generate images, generate video, all through conversation. Now, I believe in the Bloomberg article, in a leaked OpenAI meeting, they're looking at, we probably are very nearing level 2. So that coincides with, hey, when is GPT-5 coming out? Because I think that's where reasoners, right? They can solve problems at the PhD level. Right now, the reasoning apparently is at the high school level. And so once we get to that PhD level, that's really human. That's pretty high problem solving. And what I've been noticing is, and I've been waiting for this high level reasoning, because there's just certain tasks, whether it's an automation or a digital assistant, or even you having a conversation with, Claude, ChatGPT, there's just some things that from a context perspective, either have to add a lot of context, or it just doesn't get what you're talking about, where humans can easily get it, right? So that level of reasoning, which then leads to a lot of different other improved use cases, really improve reliability, which is a big concern for a lot of companies and people. Like, hey, can you do this on a regular basis, and it's accurate and it's reliable? So that's level 2.
Right. Well, one other key point, I think, is also to mention that it doesn't, that level is not relying on external databases or resources. I think that's a key point, is that it's all from within its own data set.
Yes, very, very good point. Because, right now there's things like retrieval augmented generation, there's fine tuning, but if it can reason on its own without that external data, imagine what it can do with external data. That takes it even to a next level, right? Now, imagine having that, because we've already seen, I've always, in my presentations, I usually use the examples of GPT-4o in the wild, whether it's one in Paris or the one that I think Roman did in NYU or something, where he showed it the book and it automatically read the book and it gave the summary. So imagine reasoning plus vision plus being able to hear and have a conversation with you, just ups everything to another level. Now, so we go into level 3, where it's agents. A lot of people, a lot of companies, we hear a lot of news about agents where it can take action on your behalf. And I like to use the definition of, right now, AI can do tasks for you, but it can't really do goals. Like, I have a goal, I can ask it to do a bunch of tasks, write this, email this, review this, summarize this. But can it do a goal that then it thinks about, hey, here are the best tasks to complete the goal. I'll complete the tasks without any added instructions and then come back. We had that conversation on LangGraph. We can talk about looping and all that kind of stuff. Please go back to that episode. But what's missing in this image here is that agents, systems that can take action, and in the Bloomberg article, it says can take action for days. So initially for agents, like things like, you may have heard of Devin, it can take action, but it can't take action for days. To me, that is a mind-blowing example of, hey, what can this do? You're telling me this does days. That's amazing.
Yeah, the minimal amount of human involvement, right?
Yes. Okay, so, and then we get into level 4, where Innovators, where it can aid in innovation. And I think it's missing here that can also invent on its own without any kind of human prompting interaction, which is pretty crazy. Now, there is some conversations that, hey, wait a minute, if AI has PhD level reasoning, level 2, isn't level 3, 4 like pretty much a given? Like, does it need level 3 and 4? Because if you have that PhD level reasoning, couldn't it already take action on its own for days? And can't it innovate by itself already?
On top of that,
there's some
right. Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, because it kind of goes along the lines of other things that we've been talking about and reading about, is that explosive or exponential growth, right? Mm-hmm. So once you hit each of these levels, it just becomes faster and bigger for each level, and they kind of build on top of each other to increase that momentum or that velocity.
Yes. And then the last piece here is, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
That's okay. I know I'm probably on a bit of a, I was just going to say, just to keep going on the same point, that what I imagine is, yes, you get to that PhD level of reasoning, but I would imagine if you really broke that down into the functions of our brain and how we're able to do that, right, as a human, it really isn't maybe necessarily a natural next step. And so I can imagine, just to maybe push back about what you're saying, like, could you get to level 2 and 3 and 4 aren't an automatic assumption? Because I think it is another level of whatever innovation or whatever at the AI level in order to get there. I think at 2, you have very intelligent problem-solving AI chatbots that are much more intelligent today. They can do problem solving, and to your point, they understand context and nuance. And if we can but that to me, I guess, is all I'm trying to say, is that to me, it doesn't assume agents. I think agents is actually, as it says, taking actions on that new level of reasoning and intelligence. So I guess in my mind, it seems like another step, and I get why they're split out here. So I just wanted to kind of throw that into the conversation.
And I want to go back to that in a second. I'll just explain level 5, and then we can have the full, conversation on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, so level 5 is the one that really, I think everyone's like, wait a minute, what's this? Level 5, organizations, where AI can do the work of an organization. So we always go back to what Sam was talking about. He has this private WhatsApp group. They are debating, how long will it take to get the one person, $1 billion valuation company? And I think my point of view on this is, okay, so custom GPTs, there's a lot of people that sometimes rag on it, it doesn't work, or what's the use of it, what's the GPT store? I don't believe custom GPTs is necessarily a finished product yet. Because if you think about what it's doing, so they've attached it to memory, they've attached the ability to see and hear, so that's coming, right? This week, next week, fall, whenever, that's going to be coming. We see with GPT-4o, so you can see the environment, hear the environment, has memory. Then it is connected to your data. So it's connected to Google Drive, connected to OneDrive, connected to Notion. It's going to be connected to SharePoint. And then it isn't just, hey, connected, I'm going to pull the data. You have to think it's going to be able to go into said database and start using it similar to retrieval augment, like a vector database. And then the last piece that I think it's missing is the agentic features. So if you have something that can hear, see, has memory, connected to your data, search the web, and can take action on your behalf, isn't that technically what agents do? And then match that with higher level reasoning. Well, then each one of us technically can build out these agents for us. And that, to me, that's the progress. So custom GPTs are agents, are our personal agents, but they're not complete yet. They don't have like the missing pieces. That's how I kind of think of this. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
all these 5 levels, though, when I present these to business, it coalesces. It's like, so the question I usually get, hey, when will we reach this? Remember the timelines that a lot of these people have said, 5, 7, 8 years. I think if we're about to reach level 2 and it's exponential growth, then I don't see a place where we don't get to it in 5 to 7 years. And if you think 5 to 7 years, wait a minute, are you saying level 5 in 7 years where an AI can do the work of the entire organization? Not to mention all the implications of agents and innovators. That'll have a ridiculous impact on the entire society, how our economy works, how society works, everything works. So that's what, when I saw this, that is really, really big.
And listen, it has to be 7 years, because otherwise, how is the 3-person group going to win the Oscar for Best Picture? Right?
That's right. That's right.
So that's a throwback.
A deadline.
That's right.
We have
and so we needed to get to that. Some 3 people, a group of 3, needs it to get to level 5 so that they can get to that. That's a throwback to a previous show. You should definitely go check out the one about winning an Oscar. That was a fun conversation. But okay, I don't want to stop you, Karl. Are you through the top 5? Do you want to get a conversation, or do you want to?
Yeah, the conversation I want to have, though, is especially when Jyunmi said, okay, if we hit level 2, then you mentioned, hey, it's reasoning, but agents is different, innovators different. I was like, well, I think if we hit level 2, a tool like Devin suddenly becomes actually viable and usable. Because right now it's like, they say it's an agent, but it's not really, and it doesn't do it.
Right.
To me, that level of reasoning is so big, because then it can start understanding the context and it becomes more reliable. And we have to remember, this is OpenAI. We all have to know that Anthropic, Meta, Google, they're all gonna have some sort of similar concept, or whatever that is. I would say in 6 to 8 months, we're all probably gonna be in the same. They usually catch up to each other, right? They're all in the same boat, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. open source, it doesn't matter. They're all going to catch up. So it's going to happen that everything is going to have this level of reasoning, right? We'll probably cover this tomorrow in the news. Like XAI, the one that Elon Musk has, he has those, 100,000 H100, they super cluster they just launched. Well, he's looking to have the most advanced model by December. Well, I don't know what that means, but that's one component. And he was, I think I saw an interview, it's like, well, we're either on the sidelines or participants. So they're going to be coming too. So that means so this race isn't, no one's stopping this race because everyone's going to go. So I feel whatever tool you prefer, it doesn't matter because everyone's going to have access and everyone's going to have some sort of high level.
Yeah, that's true. They're all going to compete against each other, definitely. Yeah. I think the key point or the mind-boggling point for me here is once you do achieve that stable or sustainable reasoning level, you essentially just tell the AI to improve itself, right? Figure it out. So I imagine that agents are next. All right, AI, now that you have reasoning, help me build out how you would be given these agentic qualities, right? We have these examples already. We've been building on this. How do I improve this? And it becomes more of that conversation of self-improvement, right? So the AI, and that kind of leads to that explosive or exponential growth, is because now the AI has the tools to help you improve on it. So then agentic features come in faster. Now you have the AIs have the ability to then perform or achieve goals. And what's going to be the first goal? Sam's already said it in several summits and tech summits and things like that. They're going to ask their AI to figure out the next step. How do we make this successful? What's the next level of this? How do we make our company profitable? All of those kinds of questions. And he would get the occasional chuckle, but you see it on his face. He's serious. That's what that brings to the discussion, is now you have this partner that can sync 24/7 on a particular thing and work on a particular goal. And so that's what I think leads to that exponential growth. And that for me, that's the biggest takeaway. It's like, okay, you can achieve this, you can think, all right, or reason. We should use the word reason, not think that has other connotations. But each of these steps builds upon the previous step. It just improves it and makes it more successful down the line.
So I will go as far with you guys because I don't know that I disagree. I just I think, okay, this is what I'll say. I'll go as far as to say that yes, I agree that with each successful step up on this ladder, the next step should be shorter and closer. I do think that. I agree. That's what you guys are saying. I kind of agree that there would be a speed build up, if you will, of from step to step. However, I guess I don't believe that it'll be automatic. I really do think that there will be some time between reasoning and, true agents. But first, I think we'll have bad agents or somewhat okay agents or okay agents that kind of go off and try to get things done. But as humans evaluating them, we're not going to be super thrilled with them because they're going to do an okay job. And we've seen that with like God mode and Devin and things like that, where it's like we can see the potential, but in terms of actual like use case scenarios for today, oftentimes they fall short. And I think we'll just see more of that with agents, where we see a lot of potential and people in our sort of neck of the woods and our listeners and people in the comments and stuff will get excited about it. But I think there's going to be a bit before people on the ground level using AI tools are going to get excited about agents, because I don't think they're going to be super reliable early on. And that's my guess. Obviously, I don't know.
So a couple of things. One, I agree with you. There's always going to be the initial examples, right? I don't think it's going to be perfect. Like step 2 comes out, and then now we have perfect reasoning AI to make perfect, level 3 agents and things like that. There's always that growth period, or that experience period to just become better. But I think the speed of iteration is going to be very, very short. So when you say automatic, is that what you mean? Like they'll come out perfect, or that there will be just an automatic shift from one level to another level?
For me, you're asking, or Karl?
Yeah. Well, for you, I just wanted to clarify what you meant by automatic.
I got to think about how I used it. I didn't mean automatic in terms of an automatic jump. I'm not sure I use it in the sense, so I'm not sure I can clarify, but I don't think there will be an automatic shift from one to the next, I guess is what I was saying. I might have missed that, but
okay. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Where I think this is going is, okay, let's say, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they go from 2 to 3 to 4, let's say in 3 years. I think like the technology will be there, but just like what I'm seeing from a business level, it's very hard for businesses to catch up to that because of how fast this is. I always go back to like the iPhone example. If you release the iPhone 15 the year after the iPhone 1 came out, it would be very difficult for people to use it because they don't have, businesses and people haven't gotten adjusted to it. So it's too fast. The only thing that I was thinking about though is if agents and it becomes that fast, and a very few select people know that it can do that and actually can start manipulating it in that order, that will ramp up either use or impact really, really, really quickly, right? And I think this is where I'm looking at whether the government already has seen, these models that come out and evaluated. I do not trust necessarily they may have the expertise to understand what exactly, hey, this thing just did this. Do you understand the implications of that? Like, yeah, I guess so. But do you really understand the implications of that? Sounds good. Pass it. You're like, well, are you? But sure, okay. And then all the companies are like, yeah, just pass it, whatever, right? But if you actually think about what an innovator can do, and it comes out, and not everybody, let's say it came out tomorrow, like let's say in 2 hours when Llama 3 today, this is July 23rd, Llama 405B comes out, and for some weird reason, it can now innovate on its own. It's bypassed agents, it can innovate its own. No one's going to know it can do that. Very, very few people, we're talking a minuscule amount of people in the world would know that it can do that. But what then? So how will we be able to let people know that this exists? And then how will you allow them to use it? Because yes, it's open source, but what does that mean to most people? Can they turn on a website? No. Do they go to Hugging Face? What's Hugging Face? Right. What does this mean for
I think you bring up an excellent point, because I think that's where one of the fears are, right? Is it's AI development is going so fast that when it achieves these levels, and you said it, businesses, people are slow on the uptake and the adoption and the use and the awareness and the literacy, right? They're all slower on that because we're people. And that is going to cause an even greater gap. So those who know will be able to take advantage of it. And I think that leads to a lot of alignment questions and ethical questions. Like from, Cisco actually has a couple of great comments here. They say, any fears or concerns around agents being developed, but without alignment? As OpenAI disbanded the alignment group, is it a recipe for problems? Absolutely. I don't know what that oversight structure would look like, but that's kind of one of the levers you can pull with open source, is that you have so many eyeballs on it, right? So So when something is released into open source, you can have all of these people looking at it and testing it and seeing where potential issues are. Again, that means everybody can look at it and find potential issues with it and use it to their own means. But right now, that's the only unilateral or ubiquitous method that we have to provide oversight on this in an more equal or equitable manner. The governments, of course, will always put in their 2 cents and put their thumb on the scale and things like that. Hopefully, with better alignment and ethical steps for us to take a look at AI development. But yes, it is a huge problem, especially since I shouldn't say problem; it's a concern because we've already recognized this growth. We can see that it's going to be exponential, right? And each of these levels build on top of each other, and it'll just get faster and faster and faster. So we need to kind of change our mindset to realize, okay, well, if this thing is happening so fast and we are struggling, or the whole of people, countries, nations, that kind of thing are trying to fill in that gap to get in alignment, then we need to think a few steps ahead. Okay, what are the steps that we're going to be putting in there so that we can go, hold on, pull back the reins a little bit, or at least hold on to the reins a little bit more so that we can continue to go along for the ride and not be left behind. And I think
they did.
That's that key point, right?
Well, OpenAI did put up a X thread today, and one of the points was, we believe that frontier AI models can greatly benefit society. To help ensure readiness, our preparedness framework, which I put the link to the blog on the YouTube chat there, helps evaluate and protect against the risk proposed by increasingly powerful models. We won't release a new model if it crosses a medium risk threshold until we implement sufficient safety interventions. So,
yeah. So that sounds like a promise from them.
Yes.
But do we trust them? In good conscience for humanity as a whole, should we trust a single entity? Should we not have?
I do question who do we trust? Do we trust?
And who determines the medium threshold?
Yes.
Right. And all of these kinds of questions. We don't have answers for any of these questions.
Yeah.
Our old systems may not necessarily be compatible or be able to take care of these things, but does that discussion need to happen right now and determination needs to happen? Absolutely. There are good indicators that we're moving into that direction, but having the AI.gov set up, seeing that our governments are taking steps, seeing that multiple governments are taking steps and working with each other, and people in the field, right, on the corporation levels, kind of checks and balancing each other, I think would be a good idea. And again, back to open source, because that at least is one of those checks methods, right? More eyeballs, more opinions, gives you a little more insight.
And I think what I'm hearing here is that, Karl, you've clearly missed a golden opportunity with 0 to 60.ai. You're a new company there. Not go head to head with OpenAI as a Canadian company, because who's going to suspect that the Canadians are doing anything that's a little off kilter? Like everybody would be like, whatever, 0 to 60, and you'd be like, oh yeah, they've raised billions of dollars now, and they're that Canadian company, right? Yeah. Is it like legit? Are they doing things by above the board? And everybody be like, yeah, they're Canadian. Of course, dude, they're like the nicest people in the world. We all know this, and you sail right in, buddy. You say, this could be a golden opportunity for some Canadian company here.
And Google won't be in Canada, so
they won't even know about it. They won't be able to index it.
No. Well, okay. So here's another question for yourself. So we talked about innovators. What happens if, again, today, Meta drops a level 5? I don't think it will, but let's say it does. And AI can do the work of an organization. That means the select few of us who pay attention to this on a regular basis, who geek out about this stuff, now literally have the power in our hands to create things that do things that huge corporations or even small businesses and medium-sized companies used to do. Now I have an AI that can create other AIs to be able to run an organization.
And it's maybe a good conversation for another show. And so we'll just like for this part, I'll just say, which is to say, in the future at a level 5 is having 100 humans working on a solution better, worse, different than 100 AI is a 50-50 split somewhere in there. Because I agree with you, having AI that what we're really saying is something that will run continuously. Let's just assume the power solution is not a problem. And these models can go off as you would and work deeply on a solution and a problem solving and stuff like that. And then put actions into place along with human counterparts as far as that organization. But it'd be interesting to really see, because there's so much to running a lot of businesses that's just obviously so human and needs to be. We're not replacing everybody with robots and things like this. So obviously there's many industries where it will not have the same impact. But for like an industry like I work in, which is sales, yeah, a level 5, if it dropped tomorrow, with the people who know how to implement it, which would be obviously huge. I will also throw out this because I say it every single time. It would also be the companies that already have their data house in order and already have that organized, because I mean, you could give a lot of companies level 5 tomorrow, or hell, level 3 with agents. And I almost guarantee you they wouldn't be able to be efficient with it or do anything a real meeting, because their data is not in order in their house. They don't know how to apply the data to the agents to go do things with. And I think that's going to be a serious concern for a lot of companies. I say it all the time, but I really do believe that. So I don't know. I mean, if it dropped tomorrow, could somebody run with it? Yeah, but I think there's a lot of boxes that have to be checked first before somebody would have the ability to actually get a huge benefit after it. I also don't think it's going to happen, right? I don't think anybody is that far along. Of course, there's always sleeper companies that are working in secret behind closed doors that perhaps are building models that are more powerful than OpenAI. But considering we understand what it takes and what the investment is at this point to do it, it's probably unlikely. Just because of the sheer cost.
I do want to point out that this is OpenAI's version. Anthropic has a different set. I think they categorize it more on safety. I did want to show this other one. This is from Google DeepMind. Their definition is more, I think it was more on the defining what actual artificial general intelligence was, rather than where we are from the level. So, you have like level 1 is emerging, competent, expert, virtuoso, and then level 5 is superhuman. So that's something a little bit different. They define it a little bit differently where it is, and they didn't say exactly what it does. And it just level 5 outperforms 100% of humans. I could say level 5 and level 5 of OpenAI would probably be around the same kind of deal where, hey, if an AI can run an organization, I would consider that pretty superhuman to be able to do that. And, the different levels, I don't know where agents fit. I don't know where innovators fit, but they have their own, and then Anthropic has their own. So I just want to point out this is one company's version of it, but I do believe it sets a good mark of generally they're all going to be in the same kind of realm. So you could say if there's 5 levels, there's 5 sections that we're looking at, and maybe we are going to level 2 very quickly here. And then what does level 3, 4, and 5, depending on which company meanings you use.
And I do think it's really smart. I mean, that's at the top of the show when it comes to investors. And hey, maybe that was the main reason they decided to ultimately do this thing, meaning AI. Because it's really hard to get people to invest in a fuzzy concept or a concept that's constantly shifting like AGI is. You just pointed out, Karl, right? There's major other players like Google DeepMind who have slightly, or maybe even more different views of what ultimately AGI would be, or what it would take to get there. And Anthropic, obviously, no slouch, what their team sort of defines it as. But it does make sense from a business standpoint for OpenAI to put some sort of parameters, some sort of steps, because it's, as you said, Karl, at the top, you've been, or I was saying about you've been talking to companies about this, and it definitely makes it easier if you could throw something up on the screen and say, well, this is what we're talking about, and we want to help you. And this is my last point, which is just about helping businesses. Like on this show, we always like to talk about like, well, what can you do with this today, right? If you're a business owner, what can you do with this information that we just presented? I think there's actually a lot here, and it's nothing necessarily new. It's a bit of beating the drum, but that's a good thing. And that's to say, I'm sure like you're having conversations, Karl, once you present these levels, naturally, a CTO, a CXO, CEO, whatever, might say, okay, Karl, well, what should we do next? What would be best for our employees? And I don't want to speak for you, Karl, but I would say, generally speaking, all of us as consultants are typically saying things like, well, look, you can't really go wrong by leaning into data literacy, or AI literacy rather, and getting your people using these tools at whatever level. Because I agree with you, Karl, about the custom GPTs. They may not be called, just like plugins were before custom GPTs, and they only existed for a short period of time before custom GPTs came out. Maybe the next iteration is not called a custom GPT. It may have another name to it. But I agree with you. They are nowhere near topping out at their performance. I mean, you mentioned some of the highlights already, and I agree with all of them. Easily, one of the best things you can do for your company right now is have somebody playing with solutions, just trying to take one repeatable task that nobody likes doing, and it's sort of a low lift, but hey, if you didn't have to do it 20 times a week or 20 times a month, that would be kind of great. And so there's a lot of these easy quick wins, and you get a twofer for it. Number one, you stop at doing the repetitive tasks, which is fantastic for a lot of businesses. These are things typically that people don't like doing. It's just part of their job, and it frees them up to go do the stuff they really are good at, like use their brains to do creative thinking and reasoning, and maybe that second level of AI that we're not there yet, right? But there's lots to be won today by simply taking some of these, these repetitive, boring stuff off the table through easy automations and things like that, or just a simple custom GPT, which I do all the time. Also, the second side of that really quick is obviously reps. You're getting repetitions of using it. Ethan Malik talks about needing 10 hours to get a sense of what AI can do. He really feels like 10 hours is the bare minimum of time spent with AI to really have an understanding of what a language model can do for you and how you can use it. And I don't know where that number necessarily comes from, but I would say I tend to agree with that that's a good baseline number to get people up there. Well, one easy way to do that is to go create stuff that's going to also help your company and makes people feel good along the way. So it's sort of a win-win in my book. And there's really no downside to investing in the AI literacy side of it and just getting your employees using these tools, because they are going to get smarter, and it will not be nearly the jump from a dead stop to wherever they are smarter than if they're already going up the hill and they already understand a custom GPT and what it can do for them, and now it gets smarter. That's a much easier jump, and it's going to keep your business well ahead of the curve, because there's going to be lots of other businesses that just don't move.
And you hit it right on when you say, hey, they're already moving. Because one of the things that I mentioned is like, well, what is the alternative? Because even if half the levels are true, then it's easier if you already have some sort of foundation, whether your team just builds custom GPTs, that's it. At least you have an understanding and you get the reps at it. Because imagine if your business just puts its head in the sand and suddenly it has agents. Okay, suddenly it has innovators, and you've missed those 2, 3, but then it becomes organizations, and now it's like, wait a minute, let's get on this. You're like, is it too late? Because another competitor, maybe not even a competitor, a new person's like, hey, this whole industry, I just create a bunch of organizations. I'm going to create it, and now I have a bunch of companies that is purely run by AI that can do the job faster, better, and exactly what I want than your company, which has 100 employees. And if you had time to evolve, understand, and adapt your company to that, maybe you could have had a say, or like Elon Musk said, become a participant rather than a spectator.
Right.
And then, now it has impact. So those are the things, like at the very least, whatever level, whatever definition of levels you organize, just think about from your business, what would be the downside of not participating? And it's like, well, there's a lot of downsides of not participating. Participate.
Right. A key takeaway is you don't have that moat of being around for as long as you have. If you don't learn, adapt, change and all those kinds of things, someone can totally just come out of left field and say, oh, I have all these tools that work 24/7 for me. I'm going to catch up to whatever you've already done because you slept on it. And there's no moat. Yeah.
So I do want to,
let's leave it there for today because, go ahead. You have a question. Go ahead, Karl.
I just wanted to answer, to respond to Cisco's little comment here where he says, like, I'm getting heebie-jeebies. Could an AI agent run a company and make a massive mistake like CrowdStrike and has huge economic and impacts, stock market crash and so on? It's like, well, yes, that's why I think it's very important. All businesses should understand this, because if something like that could happen, I would also say, hey, maybe AI can help fix that faster or recognize that rather than make the mistake too. But you need more people, more businesses on top of it rather than just a few. So, we can go on about this, and that could be another topic.
For sure. We'll always come back to this topic. I mean, look, we will have many, many more shows on the topic of AGI because we're going to be evolving towards that whenever we get to that reasoning, whether that's a GPT-5 or whatever it's called at that point. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of conversations about that. Then there's going to be a whole period of, hey, what can it really do? And we'll need the people that are like the Ethan Maliks of the world who are testing and pushing the limits of Claude and all these things to find really cool, innovative ways that we can use the technology today. So we will continue to talk about it. Hey, don't forget, you can go to thedailyishow.com and check out all the episodes in the past. It'll give you links to everywhere you need to go if you want to go see past episodes as well. You could also sign up for our newsletter there, and you can also learn about how to work with our team. So that's all, thedailyishow.com. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the news. That Wednesday is always our news day. Thursday, we are talking about, I almost forgot it, but it's structured prompts. Beth is going to be running that. That's going to be really good. If you want to really dive into how to do prompting right and using Google AI Studio, I will tell you, do not miss Thursday. Beth is one of the best out there, and we're all going to learn along with her. Friday is Karl will be leading that one as well. We'll be talking about AI as a service and also a company called getfloorplans.com, which is just one of many that are doing stuff like this, but it's a really cool use case with floor plans and all that. And so Karl's going to do sort of a deep dive into that. We'll talk all about that on Friday. So that's it for this show, guys. Come back, see us tomorrow where we talk about the news. Some of these topics will obviously come up again. And thanks for hanging out in the comments as always, and play it along. We will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Aloha.